Hello and welcome to the channel. So this is part 2 of this Sound City 120 head that we've got in, and it needs a full recap. The caps are absolutely shot in it. So we're going to recap this amp, give it a general service, check the tubes, check everything in it. So let's just have a look at what capacitors have got to be changed. So we've got one here, that's a 32 at 450, and then we've got some twin cans here. I think they're 32, not sure. And then we've got another capacitor here, which is a single can, and then another single there, I do believe. Yep, it's a bit hard to see with those components. We've got all the mustard caps in there, so we're not expecting to see any of those fail. We'll test them obviously, because occasionally, very rarely, do you see these leaking, but generally these are usually fine. We've got those. There's I think that's a bypass cap that's hiding away under there. Let's just check that. So that's 988, yeah, so that's a cathode bypass capacitor there. And then we've got a couple more on here, which are, I think they're just grounded into there, are they? Yes, I think they are. And that's a 2.2k, and let's just check again on there. So that's 98, yeah, that's a cathode. And just checking on there, yeah, that's a cathode too. So yeah, that's a grid cathode there, but we just about see those on the camera. But yeah, so 3 bypass caps on the preamp stage, and 2 twin cans there, 1 axial 32 450, and then a couple of single cans here by the look of it. So yeah, so let's get to it then. We've got 6 output tubes in this amp as well, so we'll need to bias this amp. And this amp, you bias these tubes in 3s, so we've got 3 on each side of the transformer there, working out phase. So there's the bias preset for 1 triplet, I suppose we could say, and there's the bias preset for the other one. Right, so if we look at this schematic here of the power supply, we've got the bridge rectifier there, we've got the fuse, which is on the negative line, which we'll be changing over. But if we look, let's just get something to point with. So if we look here, we've got our positive volts coming in, and we go up this line here, and we go to these 2 capacitors here, which are 200 microfarad in series, and these are the balancing resistors. Now if we look here, we've got 350 volts AC going in there. So I have some 100 microfarad 500 volt caps, so we need to make sure that when this amp is switched on, before the tubes are conducting, that there isn't more than 500 volts is going to hit that cap that I'm going to put in. So yes, you can check the amp obviously by switching it on without the tubes in, is one way, but also, so we've got 350 volts, so AC, so if we times that by 1.414, that gives us that gives us that's because that's zoomed in, we haven't got no lights on there. That gives us 494.9 volts, so 495 volts. Now I've tested this by switching it on without the tubes in. Now to do that, you really need a current limiter to protect it, because these caps are obviously shot in this amp. So I put a couple of 150 watt bulbs in there. That allowed me to get maximum voltage, but I still got some protection should one of those caps go short, and that would obviously alert me immediately. The bulbs would go bright, would switch off. So it's risky doing it without a current limiter, if your caps are in this state. But you can do it by calculating that. In actual fact, when I did the tests on it, we'd got 475 volts, so we're well inside there, well inside. But that maths should give you, if there's 350 there, that maths should give you what's coming in there. What you could also do is, which is safer if you don't have a current limiter, you could disconnect the AC lines from here and then measure across them to see if you've got 350 or more, and then just times it by 1.414, and that will give you a reasonably accurate, it should give you a very accurate reading of that. So we've probably got a bit less than 350 on our transformer. They all vary a little bit, don't they? So that's one way that's probably a safer way of doing it, just disconnecting either side if you don't have a current limiter. Just measure that and then times it by 1.414 should give you your voltage. But that's the most it's going to be. So what we can do here now is remove the two 200s and just put 100 in at 500 volts in there, and that means we can lose the balancing resistors there. And you can find this schematic on Schematic Heaven. So let's try and trace this through then. There's no choke on this amp at all. So coming through here, we go along this line here. We've got smoothing caps there. We're going along here through the standby switch, and if we just move this up, so coming down that line there, through the standby switch there, let's just put that's it, let's put it on manual focus. So coming down this line here through the standby switch, there's the center tap of the transformer. You can see that there. So that's to the transformer. Then if we look here, we've come through the switch again from this line. This here, we've got a 100 ohm resistor, and then it comes down here into the screens of the output tubes, grid 2 of the EL34s. Here we've got this junction, so we're going to the screens, and then we're carrying on down here. We've got some more smoothing there for this there. 6.8k we've got there, smoothing there for that. 6.8k, that's the smoothing for the screen, sorry there. So that's the smoothing. This smoothing here, these 232s here are smoothing for the screens. Yes, they're in series as well, so we need to have a look at that as well, don't we? 32, 32, yeah, they're in series, and they've got resistors, so we'll have a look at that in a minute. Yep, so yes, so we've come down here, we've got 100 ohm, there's our screen feed, as we said, grid 2. Then we're coming along here, we've got 6.8k drop-in resistor, we've got some smoothing here, and we then come across here, and that takes us down this line here into the phase inverter, 282k resistors that's feeding. So 6.8k dropper there on there. So that's that part of the power supply. But then if we go back to the 6.8k, we get to a junction here that, as we said, goes off to the phase inverter, and then it goes down the line here, 2.2k, and then that drops into here to feed these preamps here. But then there's also another junction from that 2.2k that comes along here, comes down here, smoothing, and that's feeding this preamp tube here by the look of it. So yeah, so that's pretty straightforward there. So let's just look inside the amp now and see if we can trace that through in the amp. So we've got some very sick looking rectifiers as well. Notice one of these is crumbling, so we're going to change these as well and put some 5408s in. The other thing I did notice as well, if we zoom in a little, if we look at this one here, this one, that can be pushed down onto that nut there quite easily. These are quite flimsy, so that could be pushed down onto there quite easily. So that's a little bit on the dangerous side for me, that. And also this one here can be pushed down onto the terminal, onto there quite easily, and that would be a short. And this one could also be pushed down onto there, and that's a short as well. So it's amazing that they've not actually found their way down onto there, because they are very flimsy indeed. So that really does need addressing. So here's the primary coming in here. You can just see the grommet there. They go round to here, and then the others go to the switch, which is just off camera. If we just delve in there, you can see the switch there on that. So that's where the primaries are coming in. Now we need to see where the secondaries are coming in, don't we? So here, both of the wires are here. There we go, look. So these are the wires for the AC, you can see, and they go over here. One is connected there, and the other one is connected there. So the first part we need to trace through then is up to swapping these two capacitors, which is what we're going to do first. We're going to swap these two caps. So we've got one here and one here. Now we're going to lose one, because remember we've got 100 microfarad, so we only need one. And this whole set out here with these components over these caps, you know, that easily be pushed down on there. I'm not 100% happy with some of that, but this especially is really a really daft way of doing that. But anyway, we're going to change all that, and we'll insulate the legs as well, just for good measure, and insulate these, which will just make that a bit safer, a bit more reliable. So we're coming out, and you can't see it because it's actually under here, but this orange wire here is the feed from the rectifier there, and that's going to the caps there. So that's our first point of call there. The AC comes out of these two black wires here, and they are connected to the rectifier here, and then that comes through to this orange wire here, converted to DC, and then that goes into this cap, and then that's wired in series, goes through to this one, and then to this one. In fact, the best thing to do here, looking at this, is to get rid of this cap, because we only need one of them, and shortly that's going to be safer over here. It's just making sure that the wires will reach, and then we've not got that under there. So this coming off here on this wire, this going to here, there's the ground for these caps. Ground is here on this ground pot loop, on this ground terminal here. So that's where the ground is. So, but the ground's close. If we put this cap here, remember we only need one of them. So the ground's close. So we just need to extend this wire up to here. Now the output transformer center tap will be connected somewhere, so we need to find that as well. So if we trace that back to here-ish, is that, so those two red ones, that red, what's the other one, red and orange, one, where are we, 1, 2, 3, that's the fourth, 4, 3, so there the red is on. We can't see that over there in that corner, so the red is there, so that's one plate, and the orange is the orange the other plate. That's going to be all the way down here. Yes, is that wire? Yeah, that's right. So this black wire then here must be the center tap. We've only got 3, and we've accounted for 2 of them, so we just need to see where that's wired to now. We've sussed it now. So there's actually 2 black wires here. They come out to there. They're the center tap on the output transformer. and that then comes along here to here, which is the 680k drop-in resistor, sorry, the 100 ohm drop-in resistor there. That's the 100 ohm going to the screens there. So that's what's going on there. And then from here we've got this wire that's going down to there. That's for the smoothing for the preamp tubes and so on. So we're going to remove this cap here, and we're just going to use 100 in this area here, in this hole here rather. The ground for that is there, and we've got these 4 diodes that we need to change, and we need to find some capacitors to go across those as well. And that's the first job. Right, we'll have a look at where we've got to then with this amp. We have, so we've got the cap, the big can cap in there. Let's just get in a bit closer. Right, so we'll just look at where we've got to. So we fitted this cap, and obviously I've moved it from here and put it under here. Now the diodes, well, that was fun. So the distance between the turrets is just so large that I've had to J-hook these, and I don't like doing this, but I've used some 18 gauge wire here, and I've put some 1N5 408s in here, and you can see this is now quite solid in here. And obviously I've changed those capacitors. Those diodes were well ready as well, because if we look at this one, and let me just, if you can see, I don't know if you can see, I don't know how close we can get in with that. Pretty close. Let's see if we're getting any closer there. Yeah, that's what I might just see. You can just about see that crumbling away there. See that? So that's already beginning to crumble away. It's very difficult to focus this camera that close. Just let me get, there we go. So they were ready. So we've got those sorted out, and they don't, you know, it doesn't look pretty. Well, they look the same as they did before, but they don't look pretty. But by gum, they're solid. They can't be pushed down, and that's the main thing. So yeah, it's not beautiful, but it is safe, and that's what we needed. Resistor here just came off. It was not soldered on properly. I've removed the fuse from the negative side. It's now on the live side of the HT. This I had to take off to get to those, obviously, and that goes over there like that. This is the bias cap, and they just, all they'd done really with that was they just put that bias cap there and then just put that on top and bolted it, which is absolutely useless for obvious reasons. That comes loose, it's not grounded properly. There's 6 tubes, the output tubes there, relying on that, so that'll need to be put somewhere else, grounded some elsewhere. Did find another problem here. So these resistors here, you can see in there, they are, looking at those, they are the screen resistors. And you can see, very strange way of doing it, but even more strange when you realize that can be pushed down and shorted to ground there. So and why is that the problem? You know, somebody could say, well, nobody's going to push that down to there. Well, they're not intentionally, but someone could be in this amp, and they might be, I don't know, they might be repairing something. They might be putting a new fuse holder in it, for example, and they you know, they're a bit haphazard. They push that down there, leave it resting on it, and of course then they put the new fuse holder, new fuse in the fuse holder, and they switch on and bang. And you know, you can see that there's insulation on it here, so why not just insulate it all the way across? I don't, and that's what you know, you can see that's a half-hearted attempt of doing that, but you know, before they soldered it in here, just put some insulation across it and it's end of the problem. Another one here, not much better. We've got a third one there, but that one's soldered to a turret, that one's to a turret, that one is also to a turret as well, and obviously that looks, you can just get in there, that looks, at first glance that looks a bit loose, but it's because there's no tube in there. Once the tube's in, that'll be rigid, so that's no problem. So just little things that I keep finding like that. Now the centre tap from the output transformer, as we mentioned, is wired here, and then this orange wire that you can just about see there moving goes across and comes to this start of this 100 ohm resistor, or the node 1 side of it, and we've got all the wires coming into here from various points. Now this capacitor here obviously wires to that point, and we you know, this is a problem. These turrets are very thin, and we're start to get, for instance here, look, you've got quite a clamp. So we've actually got another clamp in there. So if we zoom in, so if you can see there, we've got quite a clamp, and that can't always be helped. It is a bit, I mean, it looks, at first glance it looks a mess, but you know, there's so much stuff wired into there. We've got 1, 2 wires, 3 wires, and a resistor there wired into there, so you can see, you know, that the problem going on there. And I've just realized that I've wired something up slightly incorrect. Not that it would be dangerous, I've wired that capacitor the wrong side of the standby switch and put it straight to the diodes, and that also needs to go to this 100 ohm resistor, so I'll have to change that. And you can just see that point there, that's where I should have wired it, but never mind, I'll change that. Just spotted that. I was thinking that needed to go, that didn't need to go there, and then I ended up soldering it up there. Always go back and check your work. You always make mistakes. There's another plank moment. Nothing serious, it just means that cap will be getting voltage when the standby switch is off, and we don't want that. So 22k resistor here, drop-in resistor, you can see that there. That measures 26.6, so I'm afraid he's got to go. And generally what I'm doing here is buzzing out, because he said quite difficult to track some of the cables where they're going. So this resistor here goes from this this resistor here, which is 47k. Don't see that on the schematic, but not quite sure what's going off there at the minute. I think that should be 6.8k. I'm only glancing. So this 100 ohm getting a bit crammed in. Let's just lift. Whoops. Let's just lift up, and so this 100 ohm resistor here that you can see, if I try and get my mitts out of the way, because I'm trying to look through the camera and at the amp at the same time, not easy. So that goes up to here, and it's feeding these screens here. And then this resistor is coming back from there and going to that must go to, unless that's snapped off the clamp. Yeah, snapped off the clamp there. And then that feeds this 22k there. So that yellow wire there is feeding here. Perhaps can't hear that, but it is buzzing out. So from here, that goes down to here. Right, so looking at this schematic now. So we're coming out of here, out of the rectifier. We're going down here. We originally had the smoothing, you can see there, 220 to 200 in series to make 100. We've just put 100 in at 500 working volts. So then we carry along here, come down here through the standby switch, through the 100 ohm resistor. Now this amp has no choke, so it has that 100 watt drop-in resistor there. Then we come along here, this is the smoothing for the screens, and this is the drop-in resistor to the screens. Remember, no choke. 32 and 32, they are wired in series. So we've got 100 microfarad for node 1 and 16 microfarad for node 2, because they're 32s, they're in series. And you can clearly see that if we come there, positive, negative, and then here's the ground going back to the rectifier. And then we come along here, 6.8k, well that's been changed to 47k, we've seen that, so that needs to be changed back. Then that goes on, so 6.8k goes down here, and that goes to feed those two 82k resistors there, which are on the phase inverter. Now let's look in the amp. Now I thought at first that this had been added on as an extra filtering for the preamp, but no, this is in series. Those two 32s that we could see on that schematic wired for 16 ohms is one section out of this can, which is this one here. You can probably see that bracket's in the way though for the camera, but there's a wire going there, and that then goes through this one and connects onto the screens here. These, remember, are the screen resistors, and that connects on. You can see that wire there just about, that connects on there. So this can and this section here, and you can see the 220 ohm balancing resistor there, that's ground, the purple wire is ground. So you can see that those two are in series. This one here, this orange wire, which I've buzzed out, that goes down to here from the 6.8k resistor. This section of the can here goes along here to the clamp there. Remember, our clamp goes to there, and then that wire there goes to here. And I'm sure somebody will begin to look at this now and think, my God, it just took a bit of working out where everything goes. These two resistors here are 82k, and they are the plate resistors for the phase inverter, and they go down there. Phase invert, they go from there and onto here, which is the phase inverter, which you just can't quite see. It's off camera. Let's just zoom out to there, so you can see that. That's where they're going. So this can, this section is for the screens, and this can is for the phase inverter. These cans, two that are left in this can, are for the preamp. Right, we've got all the components in this amp now, and we are ready to fire it up. But before we do that, we will have a bit of a look at what we've done in this amp, and there's a lot of it. This amp's needed a lot of work. So we've changed the diodes, and we've got the capacitors going across those, so there, that's done. We've obviously the filter caps we've changed there, so we've got 100 microfarad here instead of the two 220s. Filled that hole up with this blanking grommet here, this plastic blanking grommet, because that's dangerous. There's full voltage on those, and it was exposed from the top, so covered that. Then we've got 50 microfarad here, because we have up these caps a bit. So we've got 50 microfarad on the screen, we've got 50 microfarad on the phase inverter, and then we've got 32 and 32 doing the rest of this amp preamp stages there. They've all been changed, so that's that done. We've done the power cable here, as you can see, and we've put the cable gland in there to hold that, and we've got the slack on the ground there should it pull out, so it will always pull the live and positive first, which will then cut the amp out, and the ground is still connected. And then obviously someone's got to open it up and solder them back on, where if it pulls the ground out first and leaves these, then the amp's got no ground on it. We've insulated this here because this was exposed. It could easily be pushed down onto that nut there, nut and bolt on the transformer, and that's a screen resistor, so that would be a dead short. And I've also replaced another one there that was a bit close to that switch, and it's still not fantastic, but it's so that's just insulated there, but it's better than it was. It's a nightmare to get that to get any. It's because they've joined these resistors here, so trying to get anything on there, it's but I think we've just got that covered. Just new bias capacitor here for the bias, and I've had to ground this here on a wire because they just trapped it under there and grounded it, which obviously if this comes loose that wouldn't be good for the tubes, so that's not good enough there. So I've grounded that there, so but I've still put it on there because obviously to fix it in properly, there's nowhere else to fix it really. It'd just be floating around if I hadn't have done that, but it's grounded there, so that's sorted. And then this has been changed here, so that was 47k and it should be 6.8 on the schematic, so we've got a new one of those in there. So that's sorted out. Plate resistors have been replaced on the phase inverter. They're now 82 microfarad. They're there. Sorry, they're 8. Sorry, what am I talking about? Sorry. Changed the plate resistors on there. They're 82k. They were out of tolerance, and I've changed all the plate resistors in this amp because I don't want it coming back frying. Changed the 100 microfarad plate resistors here. There's a capacitor here. I've changed. And oh, I've left some. I must have cleaned that off. I've left that was the last one I did. I've left the flux on there. I'll clean that off. That's disgusting. and I've changed a 1 microfarad here. We only had that in radial, but it's fine for this. 100 microfarad plate resistors there. 100 microfarad plate resistors there. 220k plate resistors there, and 200 microfarad caps changed on here as well. So there's quite a lot of stuff gone in this amp, and getting all this wired up quite it's just all over the place. Nothing in this amp is, you know, is straightforward. Even if you look at the schematic on the amp, if you look at the schematic, the you know, you've got your first preamp stage here, and that's over there. Even that's opposite way around. Everything in this amp is just, so it took a bit of getting through there and finding everything. 22k drop-in resistor here, and I've put a metal oxide in there, and I've also moved it out from under there so it'll get a bit of air. And also if that carbon compound had gone up, it would then set fire to this, and you then got potential for a fire. So I've moved that out of the way. It's just safety. There's just things just to be right. So it's just covering all bases. And that screen resistor there, just looking at that. Yeah. So yeah, quite a lot of work done. Been through all these resistors and tested all of them, and they're all pretty good in tolerance. The plate resistors are all in tolerance. I just don't want them frying, and they're, you know, old plate resistors are notorious for that. You know, this amp gets used regular, 3 months later it's one of these is frying away. So I've changed them for metal films, and we're not going to have any problems there. It just makes the amp more reliable. So all of these are good. We will have to test these mustard caps, but they're usually okay, but we will have to test them for leakage. So we're not, you know, whilst I've done all of this work, we're not out of the woodwork yet. There may be some of these caps that are leaking. They may be, they may not, so we've got to test for all of those. We've got, and the main coupling caps here we've got, so we need to see if there's any problems with the bias. We've got another one there, so all those have got to be tested yet before, you know, this thing gets anywhere near finished. So still quite a bit of work to do. We've got a couple of test tubes in the output stage. I've only put 2 in because there's no point putting all the 6 mullards in, and it's too much current to be dealing with when you're firing this up at once. We don't need that. And just a couple of test tubes, so I'm not putting the mullards back in until I know this thing is 100%. And then I've got the preamp tubes back in. So we are now in a position where we're going to fire this amp up. We're going to fire this amp up. Only I'm not going to do it now because I'm going to go off and do some teaching, but I'm coming back on the night shift and we're going to fire this up on the night shift. So yeah, and I'm quite looking forward to firing this up. When I've done these big projects, I always look forward to firing them up. Right, we're going to fire that up. So I think this, I've got this wire here coming off there. I think that went to ground on that bias, just same connection that bias cap was on there. So I've just grounded it over here for the time being with a jumper. Just I'd missed that, but it's no biggie. And you can see we've got voltage there. Put the now that's looking pretty good. So we've got 100 volts going into it. We've got 200 volts of plate voltage. There we're drawing 120 milliamps. I think we've got a problem with that speaker selector on the back there, so I'm just going to investigate that. Right, sorted that out at the back, so I think we're away now. So we've got 55 watts of bulbs in there, and you can see we've got 110 volts going in, 203 volts on the meter. Everything seems good. We're drawing 160 milliamps. For a bit more now, I've got 75 watts going in, and I can hear a bit of sound from the single generator. On the Brilliant channel. Watts now. And now we can really hear it beginning to switch. Still quiet, but up a bit more. You see that beginning to go down now because I'm getting more conductance. Remember, we've only got 2 tubes in there. A bit more. So I've got 140 in now in the bulbs, and it's coming up. Doesn't seem very loud, mine. It's just going to the well, that's the normal. Right, we're back again. The gimbal, the battery died, so we've got it on a jump pack and a battery pack. Getting it going. 302, 140 watts of bulbs. Let's swage up a bit more. Yeah, voltage is going up now. 174 volts going in now. So let's go up to 200 on the bulbs. Oh no, that's not, that's a 25. Ugh. Where's the other 100? There we go. That's swaged it a bit more now. Seem to be drawing a fair bit of current, mind you. $212 volts going in now, 391 volts, and I've got 250 watts of current limiting. Got 470 milliamps there for 2 tubes. That seems a bit high at idle, and this does not seem very loud at all. But we could still have a problem on the preamp stages somewhere, because of course we've only partially finished that, because we've changed the plate resistors. But we could even have a tube that's not very good. I mean, because we've not tested those either. What's going on there? We're not getting any voltage there. Oh, we're missing plate volts off there then. Looks like it. What we got here? See what we've got on here. Got voltage there, and I've got voltage there. Turn that down. And I've got no voltage on those plates. Why would that be? So if we look, if we put the meter, so we can put this meter where you can see it. We've got to be careful because there's a lot of voltage going on in here. Although that's plastic, so it's not going to cause any problems. But so you can just see that. If I just tip the camera up a bit more, you can just about be able to see what I'm testing. So I've got plate resistors here. You can see I've got 285 on there, and I've got 206 on that one. So that's this tube here. If we come down here to this tube, that is pin 9, pin 1. Got no voltage there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that's there. And we've got nothing there. And we've got nothing there. That's pin 1. So no plate voltage there. And if we come over to here, we've got no plate voltage there. So that's why we've got no volume on those stages, because we've got no plate voltage. Right, so if we go in here, 372 and 192. I'm not going to fish through there in case I short something. But we've got voltage on the phase inverter, and we've got voltage on this stage here. On this is a phase inverter. This is the tube here. So we're missing voltage on these other 3 tubes. Right. So I've got this on a dummy load now, so we're going to have a look. And yes, shaft, thank you. The reason this channel, this input section wasn't working is because Plank here forgot to put the 10k resistor in over that capacitor there. So that's what that was the problem. So I've grounded this 22k resistor, this ground that was floating there, that needed to be grounded there. So that's sorted, and replaced a capacitor there. I think this is on the 100 volt line though, but I've replaced that there as well. So it looked a bit decrepit. And what else? Oh, Pink's here. So we're going to switch on now and just have a look at what we've got. So we should now, having got voltage to these, we should have the inputs working. Unfortunately, we can't switch on because someone has jumped up onto the bench here, as you can see, and is in requirement of food. And I'm afraid until she gets some, we won't be able to do any work. So I'm going to go off and sort that out. Right, let's plug in. Pink's busy scoffing her treat. Switch the scope on. Right, so if we come up here, you can see we have 138 volts on that plate resistor, and that's on the plate side, it's not on the feed side. So that's all working now. So let's turn up the volume, and yeah, you can probably just hear that. That's making the 300 watt bulb swage even with two tubes in there. There we go. So Pink's had her treat now, and she's left me a present in the tray and gone out and left me right with it, and it doesn't smell very pleasant. But that's Pink for you. So if we turn up the Brilliant channel, got virtually nothing. So we've got a problem there. We go into the normal channel, and you can see there. Remember, we've only got a couple of tubes in at the moment while we're testing. So we've got a problem there. So we've got the schematic here, and if we look, we've got the normal channel here coming into this grid, out of the plate, through this capacitor, through down here to the volume, and out, and we've got two 470k mixer resistors there, and then that goes on into this section. So if we look at the Brilliant channel, that goes into this, the other side of that grid, comes out the plate there, through here, along here, up into the volume, and mixes into the same place as the normal channel. So the fact that the normal channel is working and the Brilliant channel isn't tells us that it's got to be on this first stage of it. It can't be, because otherwise the normal channel wouldn't be working if the fault was anywhere in these two stages. The first thing we need to do then is to check the plate voltages on those two plate resistors down here. What's the drop? So if we go in with this meter, because it's just easier, so we'll pop this in here, have a look. I need to be careful because this is switched on, but as I say, that's plastic, so it won't, it's not a problem. There's no metal on the bottom of that. So we'll just move the scope probe. Let's just take that off as well. Now remember, it's on the bulbs as well, so we're not going to have the normal voltage that it would have, but it doesn't matter. The fact is, we're looking for volts drop. So if we look here, we've got 134 volts, and if we look there, we've got 254, and if we look here, we've got 254, and if we look there, we've got 248, virtually the same. So that tells us that that plate resistor is the normal channel, and this plate resistor is the brilliant channel, and we've got no current draw on that side of the tube. So that can only lead to one thing there. That must be the cathode resistor that's causing that. So let's go into the brilliant channel, and if I put this meter on impedance, and if I put this across that resistor there, because that's the brilliant channel, I think. Did you hear it come up? Can just, that's the hot plate you can hear. Listen again. I've just turned the volume full up. Oh, it is full up. So you can hear that. So that cathode resistor there is open, and you can see it's open on the meter. So that's what's wrong with that. That is open. Now I checked through all these resistors and they all had a reading. So I'm not quite sure why that's popped, but I did solder the bypass cap across it. So whether the heat from the soldering iron, whether that's been a bit of a tired old resistor and the heat from the soldering iron has made it say good night, but good night it has said. So we need to change that resistor, that 2.2k. Right, we've got that cathode resistor in there, and obviously I tested the tubes. So people are saying, well, it could be the tube, it could have been, but I had tested the tubes, so more than likely it was going to be the cathode resistor, although the tube could have blown in the time we've been testing it. But just put the meter on there before we swage the and we're already working on there. If now that's, yep, the brilliant channel's working. And now if we go to the resistor, we've got 129 on there, look, you can see. So yeah, that's all good. And if we turn the brilliant channel up, we're working. Now I've also got the all the tubes in now. The 6 mullards are in there, but I am just going to check this bias while it's on the current limiter first. I'm just going to do one side before I take it off the bulbs, just to see how close it is to 70%. If it's already at 70% with the bulbs on, then I know that we've got problems. So we just need to get a reading off of there. Let's pop him in there gently, and you see that if I go in there and onto that plate, I've got 1.34 volts. So that's what we're going to work from to start off with. I don't know how well matched these tubes are, but they're the original tubes for the amp. So 1.34 divided by 13.2. So we've got 101 milliamps, but of course that is divided by 3, and that's 33.8 milliamps. So now we need to get the plate voltage, and we've got that up virtually the same. It's not on the plate, but it's virtually the same. We're only looking for a rough window. So if we times that by 337, which is what we've got up on that meter there, you can see, whoops, every time I use this calculator I always threaten to throw it away, and I've decided to throw it away. 1.34 divide by 13.2 equals, divide by 3 equals times 337. That's better. So 11.4. 11.4 on the current limiter. So I think we're fine with those. So I think we'll flick it off the current limiter now. That's the first time it's been off the current limiter. Little bit of noise from the power transformer now. Only slightly, but... So we've got 237 volts going into the amp now, and you can see we've got that there, and it's drawing 1.17 amps. And we've got 442 volts going in there. So we're going to go in again, and we're going to get a reading off this side again. .89. I mean, that's idle. 1.25 idle. 1.89 divided by 13.2 equals 143 milliamps. Divided by 3 is 47 milliamps per tube times 439. That's biased way over 20 watts. So we'll have the limiter back on there, although it's only idling. Remember, these tubes dissipate at 25 watts, so while it's idling, it's perfectly safe. So this amp is way over biased on that side, way over 20.9, so that's 21 watts. So we need to lose some current. So I'm going to go on to the other side now. Let's just flick that off. Don't want to be off for long. And yeah, we're on this side. .65 on that side. Back on the bulbs. Now then, let's see what the other side of the transformer was. It was 14.3 divided by 14.3 equals 150 milliamps. Divided by 3 is 38.46. That does seem a little better. Let's just flick off because I can't remember the plate voltage again. 442. 16.9. So they're fine. That side's right. We need to have a look. I missed all these probes, if this is adjustable or not. And it is adjustable. Now it's just suddenly come loose. So what I'm going to do is put this on standby. Just switch this on standby. So I've only got, I need to find out which way this pot is going. I do, by gum, this amp is warm. Whew. And the first thing we're going to do is get that bias down on that side. 33. So I'm going to turn this. That's not that way, is it? So it's that way. Is it that way? Wow, that's all over the place. What's going on there? It's just the meter. So let's try the other way. Nope, that's 29. Definitely anti-clockwise. Right, I've got that at negative 38. What we got on the other one? Negative 34. Right, let's just check. Right, that's on the bulbs as well. Let's just come off the bulbs. Negative 40, what we got on the other side. Negative 35, which is exactly what it is on the schematic, but of course that doesn't really mean very much, does it? Right, let's switch on again. And now the current's gone down to just a tad over an amp. Let's check this side again and see what current is being drawn. That's now down at 0.834, so I'm guessing that's quite low. That's low now. So 0.834 divided by 13.2. Now that the three of them are only drawing 63 milliamps, so we've got that quite low now. Yeah, 8.9. So now they're really low. So we can bring that up a little bit now. There. You see we've already gone up to 1.1 amps there on that. So let's go in again. 1.12 divided by 3 times 12.5 now, so we're getting there. Go up again. 1.3. $14.4 we've got on there. See what's on the other side. 17 still on that side, so that side's not really changed. 1.5 we've got on there. By gum, this thing smells warm. $16.4. Now the voltage on the wall has dropped to 234, so I think that by the time that gets to 240, that's going to be 17 watts. So I think I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to try and reduce the other one to about 16 watts. There we go. Actually, I think they've just put wax in those because they've come loose. They've not come loose, but it's turnable. 16.2. So I'm going to leave that at that. 16.4 and 16.2 is near enough for me. I'm just going to check the other side again. Yeah, 16.4. So there we go. So I think I'll set those at that. 16.2, 16.4, they're bang on. 232 volts. By the time that voltage rises to 240, we'll have probably 17%, 70% there, you know. So yeah, I think that's a safe place to leave those, because boy, that is drawing some current. 1.18 amps we're drawing with that vinyl biasing there. Now the only thing I can't do with this is to check and see if all these tubes are matched, and these Mullard tubes are going in this amp whatever, so there's little point in going down that road testing each one individually. I could by just taking one out, testing a pair each side and doing it, but these tubes are staying in this amp, so it's balanced, it's matched. Yeah, it's, you know, there are 6 Mullard tubes in there, and I think they'll be fine, to be honest. So it is what it is. So that appears to be just about everything. And I've also checked the mustard caps, and none of them are leaking at all, which is no surprise really. Now there is something that I've just spotted, and I need to put the current limiter on. So if we look there, just go in, you can see that that's gone a rather olive drab colour, and it was a lovely green colour before. That is a 10 watt resistor, and that is being smoked. It's baked, as Shango would say, baked. So while we've got the current limiter on these 300 watt bulbs, let's check across it. very carefully and see what voltage we've got across it. Now that wasn't very nice meter. £332 that's dropping on the current limiter. Well, that could explain why. According to that, that's 16 watts. So we've got a dead short, and that's what's making that 6.8k. I've actually snipped it out because it's been baked, and I've found it. So I checked to see if the new capacitor had shorted. That hadn't. But look at this. So that's, I've disconnected the feed to these plate resistors here on the preamp stage, and if I put that on there to ground, no problem. Push that resistor down onto that bolt there, just there you go, dead short. Pull that up and no short. So that's what's causing it. It's over that bolt there. Excuse me because I'm full of cold. We've also got to change this cable here because the resistor, when it baked, it's burnt it. So when we first started, right, all back together. So that was a bit of a weird one, that. If we look there, you see the black, let's just see the black blob on there. Let's go in, see how close we can get. That was shorting to ground. We've got 49 volts going across that resistor. We had over 300 across it when it was shorted. I've got the current limiter on though at that, and I've now got the scope. I'm just looking at it on the scope, and I'm going to do some tests now on these drop-in resistors to make sure when this amp is cranked up flat out that they'll stand the load. I think that one will, because it's way over spec'd. I think the main reason they used a big resistor in there is to get the reach across there. I don't know, but anyway, I just ordered a 10 watt because I thought end of problem. So current limiter is now off, and I've got it on the dummy load, as I've said, or did I not say? I don't know. So we've got 61 volts going across that. So if I swage this amp up, and that's flat out now, I'll just turn it back down. I just need to. So there's no problems there. We're just going to check these to make sure that none of them are going to get swaged. So again, when that's cranked, we've only got about 51 volts. So 51 times 51, and if we divide that by 6,800, that's a third of a watt. So that's not a problem. A much smaller resistor could have gone in there, but that's in, and that's it. There you can see, you just look closely, you can just see a tiny little bit of crossover distortion there. And if we look, sorry, I'm on a handheld, so there, you can just see that. And if we crank it, and you can see it there, we come down, oops, wrong way. There we go, sorry about that, that was me catching the cable, that swaging there. So this thing just keeps getting better. So the speakers are cutting out, and it's because the speaker selector there, the pins are just loose. So I'm going to have to disconnect all this, take it to bits, and tighten up the pins. So yes, another fun job. Right, there's all the bits out of it, took to bits, and you can see there, you can see those just need squeezing tight, they'll need cleaning as well. So I have to disconnect all of that, and you can see there where we've disconnected it from. So I've got that to sort out. We'll clean it up, get some alcohol on those and clean those pins up. Right, I've got the Sound City ready for a demo. It's not in its case, because its case, you can see, is over here, and repairs are ongoing. So the vent on the top, the grill, has got problems, to say the least. A piece of wood has come out of here, and I've glued that up, and it's got all sorts of problems. The cabinet, the handle's missing, and so I thought we'll just demo the amp. Nobody really wants to watch me mend a cabinet, do they? Pink, no, that's on, sweetheart. And those tubes are red hot. Get down. There's a good girl. Good girl. So, right, let's give it a blast. On this amp is pretty strange. I'm in the Brilliant channel at the moment, and you can get a really good sound out of this amp if you're conservative with the dials, but if you start leaning on the bass, it gets a bit muddy. So if you just back it out, it's okay. Now the mid control again goes very nasally. But if you just pull some of it out, it's fine. The treble is full up. Very active. Well, they are active, I think, on this, if I remember on the schematic. Presence. Bright guitar. So you really do need the full trebling on there. On this cabinet anyway. I mean, some speakers maybe, you know, it may need less on, you know, some speakers have got more top than others. So that's basically our EQ is very weird. You can get, you know, get a really good sound out of it, but you can get a lot of bad sounds out of it as well. So you just have to persevere, but once you get it right, that's a really nice tone. normal channel. And now you're finding you really need to get more of the presence in there. So we've got virtually now we've got most of the presence in there. And again the bass now got a little bit. So yeah, not the loudest thing in the world for 120 watt. I mean, it's loud, don't get me wrong, but you know, the gain channels on this, they're not particularly driving this hard. This is a clean amp, and probably right up to the top end. And I don't think these amps were designed to be massively, you know, overdriven. More of a pedal platform, really, I suppose. So it's got a couple of attenuated inputs, and I had a look on the schematic, and basically there's just a couple of 220k resistors in there, just grid stopping, I suppose, really. So that's the non-attenuated input. Noisy. It's got no master volume either, and you can see it's a little brighter in those channels than the attenuated one, because the not much brighter, but a little bit, because the 220Ks will knock a slight bit of top off, not a massive amount, but some. Jump up there, it's a good girl. No. When Pink gets something on her mind, she... no, you're not to get up there. Come on, get down, there's a good girl. Come on, sweetheart. I know. No. It'll burn you, come on. No, sweetheart. Come on. we are. That's the Sound City 120, and what a job that's been. That's been a real tough job, and it's probably still a little bit more testing to do really before I let this one go out. But yeah, it's been a tough one. You know, the wiring is all over the place in it. It's a great sounding amp. Now we've got it all sorted, but they've not been brilliantly put together, as you can see when you look inside. But nonetheless, it has its place in history, I think. You know, they and a lot of these amps, you know, they've been parted out for the partridge transformers, you know, because they go on the high watts and things like that. Thinking about it, don't see that many 100-watt Sound Cities around, because again, the high watts, they've had the transformers off them for the high watts. Maybe the 120s have survived because, you know, they're that may be the same transformer, I don't know, but the output transformer will obviously be different. But yeah, so that'll do it for this one, I think. So I've got some work to do to the cabinet, but other than that, so thanks for watching. You all take care, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye for now.